All right. So when you came in this morning, you should have picked up a stapled copy of some pages. Um, what we are going to attempt to do today. My daughter is still sick, so I have to be out. My wife is at work, so we're going to do things a little different today. You can see this looks exactly like the piece of paper that the pieces of paper that you have here. It's reading from a supplementary text today. Our uh, our topic is the Vietnam War. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard about the Vietnam War before. You probably, if you've watched Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks did not serve in Vietnam. But this is a war that the United States gets involved with. As I left you on Wednesday, I asked you, guns or butter? Which one did Johnson choose? Did he choose the Great Society program, butter, or did he choose guns? And you all unanimously told me that Johnson chose guns. The guns is going to take us halfway across the world to a tiny little island country by the name of Vietnam. Now, as we look here, what I'm going to attempt to do, I know you're intelligent enough to read. All I'm going to get you to do, if you will please add in, write somewhere on here, use pen, pencil, whatever it is, just write somewhere on this piece of paper the things that I'm telling you to write in. And I will use a PowerPoint to help you write those things in. The spelling thing, some of these words get kind of complicated as we go along here. But let me go over this with you. So, Vietnam is a Indonesian country. It is in the Pacific. It is south of Korea. Korea was divided at the 38th parallel, so it fits further south than China, Japan, and all of those. It is very close to the Philippines, which we talked about with the Spanish-American War. But the history behind Vietnam is that ever since the 1800s, France had controlled Vietnam. During World War II, the French were getting their butts kicked. We talked about Hitler easily running through France. They had to leave Vietnam, which left Vietnam vulnerable. Vietnam was left vulnerable to another attack. That attack came from the Japanese. The Japanese controlled Vietnam after or during World War II. Just like Korea, Vietnam, Japan, which controlled Vietnam, had to give up their possessions. Instead of us taking over or the Soviets taking over Vietnam, we chose to let the French come back. Now, when the French come back, the Vietnamese are not happy, especially this man you see over here to the left. This man was an ally of ours during World War II. He was the thorn in the side of the Japanese. He occupied the Japanese to help us defeat them in World War II. Now, the reason he helped us is we promised him that he would get his independence and he would be the George Washington of Vietnam once it was all said and done. As we've looked at throughout this class, we're not always telling the truth. And once World War II is over, Ho Chi Minh, which you see in the picture there, was hoping that he was going to be leader of Vietnam. We didn't tell the truth. We lied to him, and we allowed the French to come back. That opens up a problem to us because Ho Chi Minh will lead a crusade throughout Vietnam, and he and his Viet Minh will fight a war for independence. I called him George Washington just a minute ago. This is very similar, guys, to the United States or the colonists fighting against the British. All they want is their independence. They were promised their independence. They're trying to kick the French out of their country. Now, in 1954, Ho Chi Minh and his Viet Minh defeat the French, and this is the first place I need you to write in, please. They defeat the French at a city in northern Vietnam by the name of, and if you look on this screen right here, you see Laos, you see North Vietnam. The city, please write in to the side, Vietnam, right here it is, won their independence in 1954. They defeated the French at a city called Dien Bien Phu. Now, what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to, let's see, what can I do here? It's that city right there, right here. Dien Bien Phu. So let's go back to our reading. And in your reading, I want you to out to the side over here. Okay. I want you to write Ho Chi Minh. Let's write it over here. Ho Chi Minh and Vietnam defeat the French at Dien Bien Phu. The French get their butts kicked. They get their butts kicked. They have to leave. That meant that the only people now running Vietnam was Ho Chi Minh. Now, here comes the second problem. Ho Chi Minh was our ally during World War II because he didn't like the Japanese. We didn't either. The reason we don't give him leadership of Vietnam is, surprise, surprise, Ho Chi Minh is a communist. That's the reason we allow the French to come back. Remember, our policy towards communism is containment. We can't allow a man that we know is communist to be the leader of Vietnam. So President Eisenhower and Premier Khrushchev meet in Geneva, Switzerland. In Geneva, Switzerland, please, will you highlight the Geneva Accords? With the Geneva Accords, we and the Soviets, decide to divide Vietnam at the 17th parallel. So if you will, go back into those notes or that reading, and where it says the Geneva Accords here, let me see if I can do this. Let's put 17th parallel. And that's that line right there. And you will see here the North, just like Korea. This is no different, except Vietnam's divided at the 17th. Korea is divided at the 38th. North Vietnam will be under the leadership of Ho Chi Minh. South Vietnam will be under the leadership of Ngo Dinh Diem. Now, let me give you pictures of these guys. I always love giving you images. There you see, we divided them. This is Ngo Dinh Diem. There is him shaking hands with President Eisenhower. He is going to be our puppet in South Vietnam. He's going to run South Vietnam, but we are going to control what he does. And our number one enemy during this time, as you see in your reading there, is Ho Chi Minh. He's going to be the communist leader of North Vietnam. Now, let's come back here. And I'm going to make sure that you understand. I don't know that I can. Let's see if I can do this here. Defeated French in Bien Phu. There you go. Okay, so yours should look just like mine here, okay? And you see at the bottom, Ho Chi Minh, leader of North Vietnam. He's a communist. And Ngo Dinh Diem, our puppet in South Vietnam. Okay, now, if you will, let's turn the page over. All right, now, Diem, leader of South Vietnam, is not very well liked. One of the reasons Diem is not liked in South Vietnam is he is not the man that got them their independence. This would be very similar to us fighting and defeating the British, and then someone else coming in and say, well, we're not going to give you your independence. We're going to allow someone else to control you. Well, now you defeated those others. Now we need to divide you. We wanted George Washington to be our leader, much like many of the South Vietnamese. They want Ho Chi Minh to be their leader, but we just can't allow that to happen. So we handpick a man, Ngo Dinh Diem. Ngo Dinh Diem is not liked among the people. For one reason, he is a Catholic. The predominant religion in Vietnam is Buddhism. He tries to get rid of Buddhism in South Vietnam by jailing many Buddhist monks. And these Buddhists are very extreme. Because he, as an act of protest, these Buddhist monks show their discontent with Ngo Dinh Diem by dousing themselves with gasoline in the cities or the streets of Saigon and setting themselves on fire. As you see in this image here, this Buddhist monk protested the Diem regime. This was extremely bad for the United States. We knew that Diem was losing. The South Vietnamese